I was in the midst of a client presentation when the lobby doors flew open with a bang, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. There stood Karen Miller, our neighborhood HOA president, her face glowing with what could only be described as malicious glee. She stormed across the polished marble floor in her high-end heels, her manicured finger aimed straight at me as my clients exchanged puzzled glances. "You're done, effective immediately," Karen declared, her voice reverberating through the lobby. "Pack your things and leave my building within the hour." My face flushed as every gaze in the room locked onto us. My clients shifted awkwardly, but I kept my composure. Karen stood there, arms folded, a triumphant smirk spreading across her face, clearly savoring my public embarrassment. But there was something she didn't know, something that let me square my shoulders and meet her stare without wavering. I nodded calmly and said, "I believe there's been a mix-up, Karen." Her eyebrows arched at my steady response. "The only mix-up is you thinking you could keep your job after your miserable performance." She snapped, "Now get out before I call security." 6 weeks prior, I'd been a humble financial advisor in this very office building. It wasn't flashy, but I loved helping clients plan their investments and secure their futures. Karen, however, made the workplace nearly intolerable. Beyond being the HOA president in our shared neighborhood, she was also the building's office manager, a role that gave her 2 arenas to wield her obsession with control. She micromanaged everything, from the break room's thermostat to the parking spots employees could use. Question her authority, and you'd face a write-up for insubordination or sudden HOA violation notices at home. I'd seen skilled coworkers resign rather than endure her petty tyranny, but my circumstances had shifted dramatically, though no one at work knew yet. 2 months earlier, my uncle passed away, leaving me a sizable inheritance. I decided to invest it in real estate, and when I learned this very building was for sale, it felt like fate. I created a holding company to stay anonymous and made an offer that was swiftly accepted. The deal was set to close the following week, but I kept it under wraps, continuing my work as usual while the paperwork finalized. Meanwhile, Karen's behavior grew more unhinged. She sent daily emails about workplace etiquette violations and installed cameras trained on employee desks. At our monthly HOA meeting, she enforced absurd new rules about holiday decorations and lawn care schedules, fining residents for minor infractions like leaving a trash can out too long. When my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, a 70-year-old widow, cried over a $500 fine for unapproved garden flowers, I knew something had to change. Just the week before, Karen had cornered me in the break room, accusing me of breaching office protocol by escorting clients through the main entrance instead of the side door. "This isn't some cheap operation," she sneered, jabbing a finger near my chest. "Maybe if you acted more professional, you wouldn't be stuck in that cramped office forever." I nodded and apologized, which only seemed to irritate her more. What she didn't know was that I'd signed the final paperwork that morning. The building was officially mine. Now, standing in the lobby as Karen demanded I leave, I could feel the weight of the deed in my portfolio. I gathered my client's documents and stood calmly, apologizing for the disruption and suggesting we reschedule for the next morning. After they left, Karen stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous hiss. "I've been waiting months to do this. You're a nobody with no drive, no vision. People like you are just stepping stones for people like me." I nodded, keeping my professional demeanor. "You might be surprised, Karen." I walked toward the exit, pulled out my phone, and made a deliberate call to my lawyer within earshot. "Hi, James. Yes, the deal's done. The building's officially mine as of 9 a.m. this morning. Can you prepare the new management notices for tomorrow? Thanks." I glanced back to see Karen frozen, her mouth slightly agape as the reality of my words sank in. Without another word, I walked out. The next morning, I arrived early with the property management team. We posted notices throughout the building. Effective immediately, Smith Properties is the new owner of Oakwood Professional Center. All building management inquiries should be directed to the new property manager, David Williams. At exactly 9 a.m., I watched via the new security monitors as Karen approached the main entrance and swiped her access card. The light stayed red, the doors locked. She tried again, then pounded on the glass. The security guard pointed to the new management notice. Her face twisted with rage as she read it. When David let her in to explain, she stormed past him toward her office, only to find the locks changed. A small crowd of employees had gathered in the lobby, watching with barely concealed intrigue. "Where is he?" Karen demanded, spinning to face them. "Where's that nobody who thinks he can mess with me?" I stepped forward from near the elevator. "Good morning, Karen. I believe David was explaining the change in management." She laughed, but it sounded more like a choke. "This is a sick joke. You can't afford this building." I smiled gently. "Actually, Smith Properties is my holding company. I bought the building last week, and the ownership transfer was finalized yesterday morning, about an hour before you tried to fire me." The color drained from her face as she processed this. "That's impossible. You're just a financial advisor. You drive a decade-old Honda. I believe in living modestly." I replied calmly, "But that's irrelevant. As the new owner, I've hired a professional management company to handle operations. Your position has been terminated, effective immediately." Karen's shock turned to fury. "You can't do this. I've managed this building for 7 years. I'll sue you for wrongful termination." I handed her a business card. "You're welcome to contact my attorneys, but you should know I have extensive records of your management practices, including employee testimonies about workplace harassment and intimidation. Now, please vacate the premises. Your belongings will be packed and delivered to your home." That's when Karen lost it. She screamed profanities, her face turning crimson. She grabbed a potted plant from the reception desk and flung it across the lobby, nearly hitting an elderly client who'd just entered. Then she shoved the reception computer off the desk, sending it crashing to the floor. "This is my building," she shrieked, knocking over chairs. "You're all fired. David called security while I tried to de-escalate." "Karen, please stop. You're only making this worse." She turned on me, eyes blazing. "You think you're so smart. I'm still HOA president. I'll make your life hell. I'll fine you into bankruptcy." Security arrived, but when they tried to escort her out, she slapped one across the face. David had no choice but to call 911. Within minutes, 2 police officers arrived and tried to reason with Karen, who'd barricaded herself behind the reception desk, threatening anyone who approached. When the officers moved closer, she tried to shove past them toward me, screaming that she'd ruin me. They had no choice but to restrain her. Despite her protests, she was handcuffed and charged with disorderly conduct, property damage, assault, and trespassing. As they led her out, Karen kept shouting threats, her voice echoing until the doors closed behind her. The following week, Karen faced court, charged with 3 misdemeanors. The judge, unimpressed by her claims of victimhood, sentenced her to 100 hours of community service, ordered her to pay $7,000 for damages, and issued a restraining order barring her from the building or contacting its employees. The final blow came from the HOA board. An emergency meeting was called, and with footage of Karen's arrest circulating among residents, they voted unanimously to remove her as president. When informed, Karen sank into her chair, mouth moving soundlessly, her last shred of authority stripped away. For the first time since I'd known her, she was utterly speechless.